Tēnā koutou katoa. In our journal this week, we've got an article by Anjum Rahman from the Inclusive Aotearoa Collective. She's talking to us about inclusivity. I had a conversation with her, and I started by asking her about the collective. We'll go straight there with her. Thank you. So perhaps we start by just telling us, please, a little bit about Inclusive Aotearoa Collective.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you getting in touch with me. So our project started because we saw the need for bringing together some really global and strategic thinking around discrimination and exclusion in New Zealand. And my own experience of the ways that people are left out, the ways that society just doesn't work for them. And we wanted to go out to New Zealand and talk to all kinds of people about their feelings of belonging within society, the barriers to that belonging, and what they thought needed to change. So we've been doing that this year with a view of putting that all together into a strategy of diversity and inclusion, which will be publicly available on our website. There won't be any copyright on our materials. And we hope to implement it next year by pulling out 3 major themes, developing a really tight goal and developing a work hub around each of those goals, and pulling in people from across different communities, because we know that doesn't happen well. People are working and collaborating within communities, but not across communities. So that is, in short, the aim of the project, is to get us working differently to have greater impact in this area.
Well, this is such an important theme for our audience, which are public servants. So why don't you tell us some of the things you'd like to see change in the public sector?
So I think the very design of the systems, back in the 19th century, they were designed with a particular worldview in mind. And I think it's really time to challenge some of the basic assumptions, some of the things that often we don't even recognize are assumptions. So, our thoughts around time and how time works, our thoughts around work and why working hard is a virtue. Is it really? I think working enough is a virtue. Working hard can be detrimental to your health, your well-being, your family, whānau, community well-being. So we haven't really challenged any of those things. And so we work in this framework that is underpinned on values that often aren't shared, because different cultures, particularly tangata whenua, they have different thoughts around time and taking time to speak, to reach consensus, that aren't embedded in the system as it is. So it's really important, I think, for people within the public service to start having some really base level, complex, challenging discussions, and not just amongst themselves, but bring in community.
Yes. We don't do that enough, I don't think.
That's right. Bring in communities to have those discussions. And one, you need to do more than consult. Our engagements with community, we call them conversations, because we know that the power in the conversation does not sit with us, it sits with them. And I think often we forget that what we want to do, or in my opinion, what the public service needs to do is actually empower and strengthen communities. And so to do that, you need to devolve power out of the public service and into communities, which is difficult, it's complex, it requires some really fundamental changes and broad support. But it needs to be done. We know that a lot of things aren't working for people at the moment. A lot of people are not getting the support they need. They're not empowered to find and implement their own solutions that will make their lives better. So
they do have a lot of very good solutions. Our experience even over the last 2 or 3 weeks is that communities hold an enormous amount of knowledge and wisdom about how to solve some of these things.
Absolutely. As we talk to people around the country, regardless of their level of education, regardless of whether they have a disability or not a disability, whatever cultural group, everybody understands their own life, and everybody understands how to make it better and what they need. And often what they lack are the resources, they lack someone to believe in them and support them, they lack the social networks to make those things happen, and they lack time because they're having to work so hard to just pay the rent. And all of those things, you know, we don't trust communities enough. And I think the ways that we think about knowledge and about having expertise in a thing, it's really, you know, you can have gone to university, you can have studied all the things. You may be a doctor and you've spent all these years getting your degree and getting your knowledge, but I'm the expert in my body. I've lived with it. I've gone through, I've talked about, I've learnt about all the things that are happening with my body. And you need to trust some of that as well. Like, there are different types of knowledge, and we are not trusting the knowledge that sits in communities because often it doesn't have a degree and letters behind it.
But it has deep expertise. That's a wonderful introduction. You know, I think that we have new public service legislation. They talk about collaboration. Let's hope they think collaboration way beyond their borders. And also, they talk about inclusiveness and diversity. So maybe this is a real opportunity for public servants everywhere to start the conversations you're talking about. And I think you're very happy to hear from people and to assist. Is that right?
Absolutely. I'm happy to speak online and offline. Happy to start some of those conversations. You know, I label myself a social disruptor. I'm someone who challenges everything, questions everything, and I think it's really important. Often you don't even think about the things that need to be challenged because it's not within your life experience.
Yeah, we're blinkered, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, and we're a product of our own upbringing and environment. That's how it is. And so until you expand that environment and until you have people that come in and really challenge it, and until you're willing to open yourself to that, I think one of the barriers is defensiveness. That as soon as we challenge, we get defensive and we want to protect. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to feel guilty. And this is not about shame and guilt. It's about, can we do things differently? Can we give up power? Because essentially it's a conversation about power and where it's held and how it's held.
Well, I think that's a really good point to end. I could talk to you for ages, and I hope others will take it up. It is about sharing power and understanding power and expertise. And I urge all the people who see this not only to read the little article that we have in our journal, but to take up these conversations. And I thank you so much for giving your time to talk to me today. Thank you.
Thank you.